I'm not saying that Star Wars, The Phantom Menace, is the greatest movie ever made in the history of movies by any standard. But what I am saying is that Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is one of the greatest movies ever made. By any standard, by any category, of any standard you have in Hollywood. Or not. Any category of art, books, TV, paintings, clothing even. Lunch pails, lunch boxes. So, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, written and directed by George Lucas, an all-time masterpiece. And I'll add this to that. It's an all-time epic masterpiece. And if you want to know what epic means, if you want to know what the definition of epic is, just go ahead and read the opening title crawl to The Phantom Menace. Turmoil has engulfed the Galactic Republic. Yeah, turmoil. And that's the first line of this story, of this episode. And then the last line of the episode, of course, we've said this, I've mentioned it again and again and again. I'm pounding this in, driving it home. Turmoil is the first line. Peace is the last line. This is not... Look, everybody out there is going to have a different opinion as to whether or not they like the movie. But to say, kids aren't going to get this movie, it's too complicated. Well, they were too young when they saw it. That's why they liked Jar Jar. Let me explain this to you, okay? The Prequels is the best Star Wars. And I saw Star Wars in theaters in 1977 when I was 10 years old. And believe me, that's real Star Wars. The original trilogy, man, never saw anything like that. Empire Strikes Back, never saw anything like that. Return of the Jedi, kind of not the greatest Star Wars ever made, but still pretty good because it's part of the trilogy, the original trilogy. And you see the return of Anakin Skywalker as he is redeemed through the faith of the Son. There's a lot there too to look at in the original trilogy because of the prequels. The prequel trilogy makes the original trilogy better, and it's the best Star Wars. And I was there in 1977, and I was there in 1999. 98, 99. Let's see, when did the Phantom Menace come out? That would have been 99. And I was 32 when that movie came out. And I loved it. And it's the best Star Wars ever. The Prequels is the best Star Wars. Over and out, period. That's all there is to it. And then Anakin Skywalker, portrayed by Jake Lloyd, masterfully portrayed by Jake Lloyd, I might add. And Jake Lloyd deserves an Oscar for his portrayal of Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Written and directed by George Lucas. Producer Rick McCallum. Executive producer George Lucas. An all-time epic masterpiece. Yeah. And speaking of Oscar-worthy performances, let's not leave out Ahmed Best. Ahmed Best deserves an Oscar for his portrayal of Jar Jar Binks in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. An all-time epic masterpiece. Written and directed by George Lucas. Producer Rick McCallum. Executive producer George Lucas. Yeah, the Phantom Menace. Now, here it is. The Phantom Menace is George Lucas going overboard in more than a few places, surrounded by yes men and yes people, if you will. George Lucas is the master. He's the creator of this universe. He's the one that gave us this universe. And dear friends, the creator says that Jar Jar is the key to this whole thing. That means that Jar Jar is the key to this whole thing. George Lucas cast Jake Lloyd. Look, the casting was done by the team, but George decided that Jake Lloyd should be the one to play Anakin Skywalker. And he was right. And remember when the creator and Steven were together there and they were looking at the droids and the sets and the props, and Steven said, "It's going to be great." And the creator said, "It's going to be great." And then Steven said, "It's going to be great." And it was great. Star Wars Episode 1. Look, man, I'm not saying it's the greatest movie ever made, but I'm saying it's one of the greatest movies ever made. I'm not saying it's the all-time greatest movie ever made, but I'm saying it's the greatest of all time. Look, let me say this again. The Phantom Menace is the greatest of all time. Star Wars. And if you want another version of Star Wars, fine. Go ahead, man. Take your pick, because it's everywhere now. And it was everywhere before, but for different reasons. So, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is an all-time epic masterpiece. The GOAT, if you will. The greatest of all time. Anakin Skywalker, Jar Jar Binks, Padme Amidala, C-3PO, R2-D2, Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Chancellor Palpatine. Friends, the list goes on and on. Classic characters, iconic portrayals, Oscar-worthy performances, as well as in every category, in my opinion. The Phantom Menace, man, they need to come up with a new category for the Oscars. And it's going to be something that's never been done before. It's going to be something that's totally out of this world. Literally. All right. That's all the time we have for today, dear friends. And until we meet again, keep this in mind. These words, these wise words from the wise and powerful Jedi, Qui-Gon Jinn, as he spoke these words to Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Written and directed by George Lucas. Producer Rick McCollum. Executive producer George Lucas. And all-time epic masterpiece. Yeah. Friends, until we meet again, remember, your focus determines your reality. And may the Force be with us.